Yo, what's up? It's DR Little John with the G Perspective. I've learned to move first when it's necessary. This channel is primarily about freedom, but it's about exercising that freedom. Look out, look behind me. Because of some of the experiences that I've been through, some of the places that I've been, some of the dark places that I've been, some of the places where it gives you a sense of despair, no hope. But at the same token, I've played with the rich as well. From the surf, through the sand, to the bricks. And so because of that, I make it a point to exercise my freedom when the opportunity presents itself. Modern context is not just physical. Of course, you need to be physically free, but you also need to be mentally free. And then in a modern context, freedom has an economic component. I'm big on economic sovereignty, and that's another portion that this channel will focus on, because you can't have freedom if you don't have economic sovereignty. And I'm not talking about, being super wealthy or super rich, but I'm talking about having the economics to be mobile, having the economics to exercise your freedom, having the economics to go and do the things that you help those whom you love, and possibly help those around you. Maybe commit to causes, commit to making changes in areas in the world that you feel is necessary. That all has an economic component. But also understand that freedom is not just economics, it's also mental. Having a clear understanding of the world around you. My experiences have given me the ability to understand human nature at not only its most primal nature, but also at its most extremes. Not only have I had the opportunity to extensively study those things, but I've also had the first-hand experience with them. The DR in the DR Little John is not a doctorate in any pristine university. It's acquired knowledge and experience in some of the most extreme circumstances and situations that befall modern man. I've committed violence, and I've had violence committed against me. I've had 2 hits put out on me. I'm still here. Now keep in mind, these are things that happened 20 years ago. I've just now reached a point in my life that I want to give back. I've reached a point in my life where through trials and tribulation, I've learned, and I understand probably more than most in society today, what civility, what those things mean. Understanding, law and order. Don't get it twisted. You get up behind them walls, and there's a whole lot of rules and laws that inmates impose upon themselves outside of administration. When you're on these streets, there's a whole lot of laws that these streets impose upon those running in the streets. And that street law is just as cold, and sometimes even colder. But I've reached that point in my life where I had to really step back and look at what unique things do I have to offer. And technology has a concept called backwards engineering, and it means to take something that's already been built and break it down to its minute components to understand how it works so that you can rebuild this. And so I had to look and say, let me backwards engineer my life. Let me backwards engineer. And I realized that the experiences that I have and the responses that I've learned, those lessons over the years were not always good, and they hurt. But my whole purpose in this channel is to allow you to have a G perspective of things that hopefully you will never have to experience. But by opening up your eyes to a broader perspective of human behavior in its best and its worst, I hope from my experiences to give you a broader perspective on the world at large from a micro and macro perspective. I hope also to give you a broader perspective on human behavior, on the human psyche, on how people get down, how they really get down. Understand, the one thing I'm not going to do in this channel is I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to pillow talk you. I'm not going to soft talk it. I'm not going to backpedal. Part of the purpose of this channel is because no one said the things that should have been said. No one said the things that I'm going to say to you on this channel. I'm taking a position that humans are good and bad. That's what humanity is composed of. And we can find and look for the best in people, and we can stumble into the worst of people. My objective is to prevent you from stumbling into the wrong people, the wrong situations, the wrong circumstances. Understand that maintaining that freedom, once again, is comprised of a few components. But that physical aspect is not just health-wise, but it's also being able to maintain your freedom, being able to maintain the things that you've acquired and worked for, your life, your liberty, and the right to pursue the things that make you happy, the things that you need, the right to build and maintain the infrastructure that you need to maintain for you and yours. And so through my perspective, through a G perspective, through not just textbooks or analytics, which I'm a component of both of those, but raw experience. I've been through more than you can imagine, and over time in the channel, I'm sure I'll reveal a good portion of that. Oftentimes when I speak about subjects, I'm very conceptual. I'm really big on concepts and having an understanding for concepts. So oftentimes I think storytelling is some of the best ways to get those things across. I hope to present things in a G perspective, things in a layman's term, but in a G perspective is from a street perspective. But understand, there are G's in the boardroom. There are G's where you work. There are G's in a whole host of facets throughout society. Those are the people, whether they're qualified or not, when in an area, a hierarchy, or a level, are going to always ensure that they have a portion of the pie, whether it's a small portion or a large portion, but they're going to always make sure that when the pie is cut up, they are included, not just considered. And that's a G. From a street perspective, a G is the cat who is capable of falling into any street role, but doesn't favor most of the street roles. Once again, he's the cat who just wants to make sure that a portion of the pie is set aside for him. He's not with the bullshit, but he ain't scandalous outright, because he understands there's repercussions to actions. He understands that deeper than any other street person, any other street genre. You know, whether it's a robber, whether it's a dope dealer, whether it's a thief, whether it's a paper pusher, you know, somebody that's pushing credit cards and checks, and, you know, whether it's a bank robber, whether it's a dope dealer, whether it's a burglar, a pimp. A G is neither of them, but is capable of taking on any of those roles if he deems it suitable, so that he can have a portion of the pie. He'll bring the funk, he'll bring the heat, but he likes chill. He wants to enjoy the fruits of his labors. He understands that conflict and controversy is not cool. People get hurt. You can't enjoy the fruits of your labors. So don't get it twisted between those other facets of the street. You know, the burglar and the dope dealer, they don't think like that. The pimp, they don't think like that. It's a whole different hierarchy. The G is he's the Ronin. He's the independent operator. But he's respected, whether he has money or not, by all those other levels or all the other facets that are in the street. So once again, that G perspective is taking the varied experiences that I have. G perspective is giving you an uncut, gritty, real perspective on human behavior, on the circumstances and situations that you may come across, that you may befall, that you may stumble into. The whole objective is to get you to see those situations prior to them developing and being able to skirt to the left or right, being able to shake the bullshit and to live your life as free as possible without any interference from anybody. I'm a big component on exercising your freedom. When the opportunity presents itself, I make it a point to travel. It's crazy because where I've come from and where I've been to 4 countries in the last 6 years. That's a blessing. I got a passport. I've been all around the United States. Not finished. Just had an opportunity to see my grandson being born. My first grandson. My daughter's first child. That same daughter that when she was 4 months in her mother's womb, I handled my business because somebody threw a brick at her mother's stomach. Fortunately, they missed and hit her mother in the leg. But once again, from a G perspective, man never waits or depends on anybody to protect his own, albeit of the ramifications or circumstances. But it's a blessing that 22 years later, that same baby girl just had a baby boy. And I was able to hold him. I'm able to be here where many of my peers aren't. Many of the cats that I ran with are not. A lot of them are dead. A lot of them ain't never coming out of them holes. God held me through a whole host of shit. Taking guns from people twice in my life. I mean, literally, fool pulling a gun and I rush him and end up with it. I've had shootouts from almost point blank range. Been stabbed in the head first couple days in a prison system, in an adult prison system. I had experience prior to that. I was a YA baby, and that's a whole nother story that we have to get into. But my first 4 days in prison, I got that. It wasn't much, about 6 stitches. A week later, I broke a knife in somebody's collar. I ended up spending my first year in state prison in the hole, what they call the security housing unit, Corcoran Shoe. The objective of this channel is to give you a G perspective, to give you a broader perspective on the good and bad, the grimiest of human behavior. I am more a citizen of the world today due to my experiences than 90% of the people in society. I understand the importance of rules. I understand the importance of civility. I understand the importance of family and family structure and environments that allow families to thrive. I understand and respect the right for individuals to be able to defend themselves You can't have freedom if you don't have the right to defend yourself. And I also understand and push heavily the right of economic sovereignty, the right of each individual having the ability, the opportunity, and access at the materials that they need to build and maintain their own. As a Black American, I think back to the Don't Tread on Me. This channel is about helping you to have the foresight and insight and understanding to prevent those who may do you harm from treading on you. This channel is dedicated to my grandson, Mason. I love you, man. And to my grandbaby, Lala. Subscribe and hit that thumbs up. This is Dr. Little John from a G Perspective. Peace.